See, when you are a minister, you're a servant. I work for you every week. I make sure when you come here, you're going to have something to eat. Now, I don't work for you that every time you want me to come to your house, I'm going to come. That ain't my job now. When you get in the hospital, I'm going to be there to see you. That ain't my job. You call on the elders when certain things go on. But my job is to serve you with knowledge and understanding every time I get up here. If I do not come with knowledge and understanding, I'm not a good servant. If I come being pious or high-minded, I'm not a good servant. If I come speaking on my own accord, I'm not a good servant. I have to speak what thus saith God. And I have to speak it in the manner that he said. I'll give you shepherds according to my heart. It's going to feed you with some knowledge and understanding. Every time I serve you, that's what I'm going to give you. You don't have to ever worry about showing up at the church and getting the buffet. We don't do buffets here. Buffets don't happen here. You get knowledge and understanding. Every now and then, with the two ingredients, you may get a little something extra. You may get a hoop, you may get a holler, you may get an exhortation, but it will never be a buffet. I mean, understand that. Why? That's what I have been told to serve week in and week out. And see, the thing about being a minister of God is that I don't want to play the fool and displease God. Let me show you why. Ecclesiastes. I'm almost done. Y'all stay with me. Y'all stay with me, flames. Stay with me, flames. Congregation, help me say, stay with him, flames. Make sure that light stay on and that heat is fervent. Ecclesiastes 5:4. When you make a vow and becoming a minister in one part is a vow. You're saying to God, first, I vow to be your servant. But it's actually twofold. Because since a minister serves God and the church, a minister also says, I vow to serve your church. I'm going to serve you, God, and I'm going to serve the church. That's the reason when you hear a person call him or herself a minister, but is not a part of a church, that's not God's minister. That's a lone ranger that needs to get somewhere and sit down and be taught. God's ministers serve him and his church. That's Bible. When ministers came into existence in the Old and the New Testament, that's what happened. The ministers were primarily known as the Levites in the Old Testament. They were chosen specifically to serve God and the church. And then in the New Testament, ministers were specifically chosen to serve God and the church. So when you hear a jacked up preacher say, I'm a minister, but I don't belong to a church, something is wrong with that. What's wrong with it? It's not Bible. It's not Bible. It's one thing to be between churches, but it's another thing not to belong to a church and still want folks to acknowledge you as reverend. preacher, bishop, or whoever. I may be talking about your cousin or your uncle, maybe even your brother. You need to let them know if you are a genuine minister, you're going to belong to somebody's church. Because they'll get mad when you don't. You call your preacher pastor. How come you won't call me minister? Because you don't belong to nobody's church. Lord have mercy. Y'all all right? But listen to this. When you make a vow to God, do not delay to pay it. For this is what I want you to get. For he has no pleasure in who? He has no pleasure in who? See, I can't play the fool. If I have vowed to God that I was going to be a servant, I can't play with that. That's the reason ministers don't steal no sermon. And then try to get up here and act like it's your own. Don't do that. I'm going to tell y'all something. Sometimes it takes days to get the right message. You can type it up in 30 minutes or less. But it's just getting the message. The right message. And sometimes God will wait to see if you're going to wait on him or do it on your own. You take this message, what I'm preaching this morning, I had to wait on this message. Now I can come out here every time I come and preach something off the top of my head. I know the word. But the thing is, it has to be what God has ordained for his people to have. Hold on. If I'm a true servant. And see, the vow that I made to him, I was serious about the vow. Lord, if they don't give me a dime, I'm still going to minister. Lord, if I have to minister to only 3 folk, I'm still going to minister. Lord, if I have to preach to myself, I'm still going to minister. Some ministers have to have a crowd. Some ministers, if there's no crowd, they will not put all into it. But let it be a crowd. Then you have some ministers that they'll serve God better if they got to teach or preach. But if they got to lead prayer, oh, he just asked me to lead prayer. I ain't going to be teaching, so I just, yeah. When you are a legitimate servant of God, you don't care if you have to pray. You don't care if you have to take the offering, if you have to preach, or you have to grab somebody's Bible and be their armor and set it on the podium. You are going to give God your best. And quit telling everybody how great you're going to be. The Lord going to really use me one day. I'm going to be such a... Shut up! That ain't God's minister. They prophesied to me, so I know, oh, kakatayako, God going to use... Hush! There are ministers right now that are wonder in their own mind. God will never use them the way he desires to use them because they think more of themselves than they ought. This is a position of humility. It's a position of humility. They'll say, I want to be just like Pastor Walker, because they're looking at where I am right now. You want to be like Pastor? Didn't have a penny in his pocket. His wife look at it, you better do something. I didn't sign up for this. Deacons come to him every week. Hey, you're 25. Flesh say you ought to tell them to at least raise it to 30 a week. No, that ain't what I signed up for. I signed up to be a servant. He said in due time he would exalt me. In years unpassed by, he ain't exalted me the way I thought he would yet, but I know it's going to come. Then you have some ministers that say they want to be like Pastor Walker. They'll come to me and say, Pastor, I'm really going through it. Well, you said you wanted to be just like me. What did you think? You thought you were going to be in Picnic City? You were going to go through a trial for a week and a half and then... When you vow to be God's minister, it's a tough road. Because see, folk treat you differently when you become a minister. And they should. Because more is expected of you. But the greatest thing that God looks for when you become a minister is humility. Humility and service. Paul understood it. That's the reason he said, woe be unto me if I don't preach the gospel. He knew doom would take place if he didn't obey God. It's just like ministers who know that God has chosen them. They are to the point to where they feel within them that they have to do what they're doing, despite the sleepless nights, despite being talked about, misunderstood. Why? Minister. Got to keep doing what God said. And so I can't play the fool, can't be unwise. Got to do it God's way. And in my close, ministers who do it God's way have special traits. Special traits. And let me just go ahead and just tell you up front, the special traits are not knowing how to hoop. Not knowing how to holler. You can get a singer to do that in it way better than a preacher. Let's look at a couple of things, and I'm gonna be done.